very serious thing on the spine, and she couldn't stand the pain. She couldn't lie down, she couldn't sit up. They put some braces on her back. The other one simply left and shut her phone off. No one can contact her. But she was a little bit like that anyway. So now we're trying to get 3 more people because we're so far behind. So, got a lot to do. Okay, time. So, we've been speaking about the life force, creatrix, and we have the last line on page 50. Alarmed by the sorrow dragging at her feet, and conscious of the high things not yet won, ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. On page 51 now, at the very beginning. 50 was the last line, and now we're in 51. So, because she is conscious of these high things that have not yet been achieved, she nurses in her sleepless breast. Now here, this word nurses is very interesting because in this context, it means to bear privately in the mind or the heart. What does she nurse? An inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. And then this...
Nurses means to bear privately. In this case, nurses means to bear privately.
It can be. That's what I said. That was exactly what I said, yes. To bear privately in the mind or in the heart. So she's bearing all of this that she's not yet been able to create. Not yet able even to win things. See the first line? Not yet won. And what are these things that are not yet won in creation? Well, it has to do with the evolution. It's still limping on. Somewhere in Savitri, he has a yes accompanied by an eternal no. So, yeah, very powerful. So, she's nursing in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. So she doesn't even have any rest because the evolution has to go on, and she doesn't have any peace. And then this extraordinary line, ignorant and weary and invincible. Wow. She seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain. Quivering, is a tremulous movement. What is she seeking? The pure perfection her marred nature needs. A marred nature is poetically an impaired nature. Her marred nature needs. What does that marred nature need most of all? A breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. She is not aware yet at this stage of her being that she's the Divine Mother. And so she doesn't see that the divine is already in the stone and the mire. So she wants this breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. This mire is an interesting word because it's the mud. And Sri Aurobindo tells us, don't judge the lotus by the mud in which it grows, but by its archetype in heaven. Interesting. A faith she craves that can survive defeat. And I think this is what all of us have to have. We have to develop this faith that can survive defeat. I was listening to a talk by the Estonian composer Arvo Pärt when a young girl asked him, "Have you thanked God for your failures?" A faith she craves that can survive defeat. The sweetness of a love that knows not death. The radiance of a truth forever sure. So all of these things she wants. The breath, the faith, the sweetness, the radiance. A light, pardon?
Sure. I have it as sureness, not sweetness of love. Sweetness of it.
The sweetness?
I have sureness.
Maybe the edition that you have.
Different editions. Yeah. What is yours? Is it 93? No, this is an earlier edition. You have one of those rare early editions. I bought one also. It was 1,500 rupees, I think. Yeah, so that's an earlier edition. The latest edition is The Sweetness of a Love. And actually, it's much better, isn't it? The sweetness of a love that knows not death. A light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp. To elude is to avoid, to escape. So that one needed truth escapes her grasp. And what is that? And he ends it with herself, and all of which she is the sign. There's a lady in Aurobindo, Muriel, who is putting on these programs directly with Mother's words. And here's how she does it. She has a photograph of Mother in the playground, sitting beneath the true map of India, and then this huge picture of all the disciples and children coming for Mother's talks. And at the top of the screen, she has everything in French, and at the bottom of the screen, excellent translations into English. So if you get a chance to see that, I don't know the lady, I've never met her. I wrote her, but she didn't reply. And I've put all of her work on our website because it's really beautiful. You listen, you hear Mother's voice. Now it doesn't move at all because it's just a photograph, but you have that feeling of the playground. The playground was so important to me because I was only there once or twice when I was very young. And when Mother left that evening, after she gave little handfuls of ground nuts to the children and to the disciples, she kept looking at me all the way as she walked out. And Dimitri says, she has only eyes for you. I will never know what that meant, that blessing, but Wow. Okay. Herself and all of which she is the sign. She is the divine creatrix. An inarticulate whisper drives her steps. So that inarticulate whisper is something that is not uttered with expressive or intelligible modulations. Sometimes we call it silent, but it's not really silent, because to articulate something, you have to speak it properly. So if it's inarticulate, it's like that. Of which she feels the force, but not the sense. A few rare intimations come as guides. Immense divining flashes cleave her brain. So we have intimations, subtle hints or suggestions. A few rare intimations come as guides. Immense divining flashes cleave her brain. Well, divining here would be magnificent, supremely good. But cleave has many, many definitions. And I believe the second definition is like to pierce or penetrate. Sometimes we say, cleave this piece of wood, cleave this, cleave that. But here it's to pierce or penetrate her. And sometimes in her hours of dream and muse, the truth that she has missed looks out on her, as if far off and yet within her soul. You see how poignant this is, this struggling creatrix that hears these whispers, she feels this force, she has these few intimations, she has these divining flashes cleaving her brain.
It's like descent. Like descent.
Descent. Yeah, it's descent, but it's powerful, like splitting the brain open almost. We won't go that far, but pierce or penetrating the brain. And sometimes in her hours of dream and muse. Now, I was just working with Ranganathan last Saturday. I do every Saturday with him the Life Divine. And we got into the section of the Life Divine where Sri Aurobindo writes for a long time about dreams. Very, very powerful. Difficult to read, no doubt. He gives one point as seeming truth, and then gives the opposite point as truth also. And then he'll take another position and say, well, this may be this truth, and then he'll challenge it and oppose it. And this whole thing, it's about 2 pages that are so powerful. So, and sometimes in her hours of dream and muse, when we muse, we almost dream, don't we? Or we imagine things. The truth that she has missed looks out on her, as if far off and yet within her soul. A change comes near that flees from her surmise. Interesting word, surmise. Anybody can tell me the definition? Surmise. Surmise means basically to conceive of, make a guess or conjecture. So that change comes near but it flees from her idea or thought of something as being possible or likely.
Suspect is okay.
What?
Suspect is okay?
No, no, no. It has to be, a surmise has to be something thought as being possible, a conjecture, something conceived. Now we have a noun and a verb, but this is a noun, and it's thought of something as being possible or likely. And ever postponed compels attempt and hope, yet seems too great for mortal hope to dare. He uses hope in both lines. And ever postponed. What is this thing that's postponed? The change. Compels attempt and hope, yet seems too great for mortal hope to dare. A vision meets her of supernal power. We've gone through supernal many times, so I will pass on that. That draw her as if mighty kinsmen lost, approaching with estranged, great, luminous gaze. So these are these powers. They are forces and beings. Usually they're negative. They're what we call in India the asuras, the rakshasas, the pisachas. Beings respectively, Sri Aurobindo says, of the mentalized vital, middle vital, and lower vital planes. Now the gods are the powers of light, and they have their cosmic field where they exercise their function and authority. And some of them were once divine powers. And that harkens us back to Mother's words about the 4 emanations that she sent down and how they turned against her. And she had to send down 4 more. So sometimes, and some of them were once divine, the former gods, Purva Deva, as they are called somewhere in the Mahabharata, who have fallen towards the darkness by revolt against the divine will behind the cosmos. And this is from one of his letters on yoga to a disciple. Now, that draw her, they draw her in as if mighty kinsmen, family, lost, approaching with estranged, great, luminous gaze. Now these are positive powers. These are forces and beings that are looking towards the good. The other 4 that Mother sent down. Estranged, alienated, withdrawn, withheld, alienated, approaching with estranged, great, luminous gaze. Then is she moved to all that she is not, and stretches arms to what was never hers. And now he's going to continue with this image of the creatrix stretching arms to what was never hers, outstretching arms to the unconscious void. We don't see this very often in Savitri, where he's almost repeating the same thing, but he wants to impress this upon us, that she is stretching arms to something that was never hers, and she is outstretching arms to the unconscious void. And I think I talked about the void last week, but I don't know, I have so many students. Did we talk about it last week?
Yes, yes.
I thought so. Passionate, she prays to invisible forms of gods, soliciting from dumb fate and toiling time I could go all night on just these 2 lines. What most she needs, what most exceeds her scope. And now we're going to find out what those things are. Firstly, a mind unvisited by illusion's gleams. Secondly, oh boy, a will expressive of soul's deity. Now, I've done will with you also, so we'll just continue on. A strength not forced to stumble by its speed. Isn't that a powerful line and a beautiful line? We have strength sometimes, all of us. And all of us also stumble by that speed because we want to do things quickly, immediately. And I remember Aurobindo Basu speaking to me about what Mother wanted for me. And he said, take things slowly. Mother does not want any big splash, any huge movement immediately. She wants it to go peacefully and consciously. I haven't always kept that, but I try. Okay, so 52 now. A joy that drags not sorrow as its shade. A joy, that's bliss, that drags not sorrow as its shade. For these she yearns and feels them destined hers. Heaven's privilege she claims as her own right. So now she finds that she's yearning for these things, and she even feels that they have to become hers. They are destined hers. Heaven's privilege she claims as her own right. Just is her claim. The all-witnessing gods approve. Clear in a greater light than reason owns, our intuitions are its title deeds. Our souls accept what our blind thoughts refuse. Well, there's so much here, and I'm going to end with this section. So we see that her claim, the divine Prakriti's claim, is approved by the gods, these higher gods, who are all witnessing. And they say that her claim is just because it's evolutionary. She has to build, she has to create. Now, clear in a greater light than reason owns. And then there's a colon there. And then that's followed by another line with a semicolon. Very unique. Our intuitions are its title deeds. Who can tell me what a title deed is?
A symbol?
No?
The land transfer.
Yes, it's something like that. It's a legal right or title to property. See? So if we have a title deed, we own something. Good. Our souls accept what our blind thoughts refuse. Earth's winged chimeras are truth steeds in heaven. Powerful line. You know, a chimera is often known as a horrible or an unreal creature of the imagination. But in history, mythological history, it was a fire breathing monster, commonly represented with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail. That was the chimera. But here, these beings of the imagination are actually in heaven the horses of the truth. And remember that in the beginning of Savitri, what does he tell us Ashwapati is? The Lord of the Horse. Very good. So I go a little more and that's it. The impossible, God's sign of things to be. Oh, I have to go a few more. That would have been a good ending, but few can look beyond the present state or overleap this matted hedge of sense. When something is matted, well, we see ladies' hair often matted, and this matted hedge, a hedge, of course, is a plant that's grown very close, many plants grown close to each other to make a barrier. So it's a matted hedge of sense. All that transpires on earth and all beyond are parts of an illimitable plan. The one keeps in his heart and knows alone. And we'll stop there. Will you read for us tonight? I think page 50, the last line. Alarmed by the sorrow dragging at her feet.
Alarmed by the sorrow dragging at her feet, and conscious of the high things not yet won. Ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. Ignorant and weary and invincible, she seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs. A breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. A faith she craves that can survive defeat. The sweetness of a love that knows not death. The radiance of a truth forever sure. A light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp, herself, and all of which she is the sun. An inarticulate whisper drives her steps, of which she feels the force but not the sense. A few rare intimations come as guide, immense divining, immense divining flashes cleave her brain, and sometimes in her hours of dream and muse, The truth that she has missed looks out on her as if far off and yet within her soul. A change comes near that flees from her surmise, and ever postponed compels attempt and hope, yet seems too great for mortal hope to dare. A vision meets her of supernal powers that draw her as if mighty kinsmen lost, approaching with estranged, great luminous gaze. Then she is moved, then is she moved to all that she is not, and stretches arms to what was never hers, outstretching arms to the unconscious void. Passionate she prays to invisible forms of gods, soliciting from dumb fate and toiling time what most she needs, what most exceeds her scope. A mind unvisited by illusion's gleams, a will expressive of soul's deity, a strength not forced to stumble by its speed, a joy that drags not sorrow as its shape. For these she yearns and feels them destined her. Heaven's privilege she claims as her own right. Just is her claim the all witnessing gods approve, clear in a greater light than reason owns. Our intuitions are its title deeds, our souls accept what our blind thoughts refuse. Earth's winged chimeras are truth's seeds in heaven, the impossible God's sign of things to be. But few can look beyond the present state or overleap this matted hedge of sense. All that transpires on earth and all beyond are parts of an illimitable plan the one keeps in his heart and knows alone.
Thank you. I have a taxi. She's leaving in 2 weeks. She'll be away for quite a few months. Yeah, I got it.
I know that's hard to be. What that's it? 24th.
Who is
Final
how are
arrival.
you?
You press,
Who is
you went and stand there. Final arrival of Shiva. I thank you. 24th. That is mother's final. Mother's final arrival.